Good evening and welcome to all. This meeting of the Poquoson City Council is called to order. Item B on our agenda is the invocation and pledge of allegiance, which will be led tonight by Vice Mayor Debbie Bunton. Debbie?
Please stand. Let us pray. Lord, we enter your courts with praise and thanksgiving tonight for the many blessings you've bestowed upon us and our city. We thank you for the privilege that we've been given to serve all who live, reside, and work here in our city. Please give us wisdom to understand the issues set before us tonight and the courage that we will make the right decisions. May the members of this body serve as a positive influence to all we come in contact with by showing respect and kindness to all. We ask these things in Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Let us say the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Seated.
Thank you, Debbie. Hey, Keith.
Yeah, you're doing okay.
Well, item C on our agenda is a special presentation related to the Peninsula Chamber of Commerce. We're very pleased to have with us tonight the President and Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Bob McKenna. So Bob, welcome. And a little bit of biographical information about Bob. He is a graduate of the United States Merchant Marine Academy at Kings Point, and he retired from the Navy as a captain after 27 years of service. So he is an accomplished individual. We're very pleased to have him here tonight with us. So Bob, with that, the floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I'm very famous for throwing out my script. So sometimes I bring a script just for a prop, just so I can throw it and then go into my presentation. Okay. So, as you all know, my name is Bob McKenna. I'm President and CEO of the Virginia Peninsula Chamber, and I am very proud and honored to be here tonight. So thank you, Mayor and Vice Mayor and City Council members. I love to be at meetings where we start with the prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. And I keep telling myself every time I do an event at the Chamber, I'm going to at least start with the Pledge of Allegiance and a private prayer. But I think I'm going to start opening up with a prayer too, because I think it's much more important than it's ever been in our nation's history.
Yes, sir.
And I always focus on that word indivisible when we're saying the Pledge of Allegiance. So thank you for starting off like that. Okay, so like I said, I throw away the script very often, but I'll put up some slides and then I'll talk kind of about what we're doing at the Chamber. I've been there it'll be 8 years on March 1st. As the mayor said, I was 27 years in the Navy, moved back to Newport News after retiring in Jacksonville, Florida, which was where my parents lived and where I got married and where one of my kids was born, and I was stationed there several times during my career. But I came back to the Peninsula because this is where I wanted my forever home to be. So we owned a house here. My two older kids went to Peninsula Catholic. My two younger kids were coming up towards high school at that point, and they wanted to go to the same school. And I got a job here. So I came back and became a defense contractor. I did that for 7 years. And during the course of my working as a defense contractor, I started going to the Military Affairs Council meetings at the Chamber. And this is back when the Chamber was located in Hampton. And I got to be friends with my predecessor, and when he retired a few years later, he called me and said, "We would like you to apply for the job." And I said, "I have no idea what a chamber does other than the Military Affairs Council." And he said, "You're the guy we want." So I applied for the job. I got it, and then my wife said to me, "So what are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to take it, because how do you pass up an opportunity like this?" So when I was a defense contractor, I was working from my kitchen table on a laptop, and I was pretty bored, and as the mayor said, I was a retired captain, so I was still in my early 50s. I thought I still had a lot to give back, and I needed a mission again, which leads me to the first slide. the mission of the Virginia Peninsula Chamber. So that was a long way to get to the first slide. The mission is we are a catalyst for business growth, on the peninsula and a regional collaborator, so for economic development within the region. Our vision, as you'll see, is to be the Virginia Peninsula's leading business advocacy organization, but I'm a little more ambitious than that, so I'm going to change this with my board at the next opportunity I can get and say to be Hampton Roads' leading business advocacy organization, because we have become, I think, a regional influential organization. So the execution, and my board came to me about 4 years ago and said, tell us what the chamber does on the peninsula that's completely unique. There's a lot of other organizations that are doing similar work in the business community, but not like a chamber. But what does the chamber bring, what value does the chamber bring to your members on a regular basis? So I came up with the 5 C's, and you see 6 of them up there, and I'll explain that later. And the board has said to me several times over the past few years, can you get it down to 3? And I said, no, because we do 5. So the 5 are connector, convener, collaborator, conduit, and champion. And I'll go through each one of those real quick. So we're a connector of people and organizations. So the strong relationships that we've created throughout the peninsula and throughout the Hampton Roads region and even into the Commonwealth give us the ability to connect our members with people that can help them succeed at their mission. And we do that, for example, at our Lead Peninsula program, which is, I'll talk about it a little bit later, but that's a civic immersion program that runs every year for 11 months a year. We have coffee and business connections every month. And as I say, every one of our events is a connector event, because if you come to one of our events and there's 500 people there, you're going to meet several new people that you don't know, that you have not known in the past, that are going to help you succeed at your mission. But if you come into a coffee connection that has 30 people, you're going to meet 4 or 5 people that you have never met before. So those are what we call those events, connection events. We're a convener of discussions and initiatives. So you know how organizations, several organizations may be working on the same initiatives that are designed to help our economy grow, help with the quality of life of our citizens, something like early childhood education or care for the aging or something like that. But there's a bunch of different organizations who are working on these initiatives in stovepipe fashion, and they never talk to each other. So we can be the honest broker and bring them together. So that's why I say we're a convener of discussions and initiatives. So just some examples of that, we have an organization called the Peninsula Economic Resource Team. Are any of you familiar with that organization? It's an informal organization started many years ago. I just kind of inherited it and kept it going. You all know about EV-RIFA, right? Eastern Virginia Regional Industrial Facilities Authority. That came out of PERT. So PERT was an organization with all the economic development directors from the peninsula, and they would meet once a month at the Peninsula Chamber and just discuss ways that they could collaborate to bring more economic growth to the peninsula. Dave Callis, may he rest in peace, was a very critical part of that organization, and he was also a very critical part of my early education as to what a chamber does and what economic developers do. So that organization it's not a monthly anymore, but we meet about once a quarter. And then we have an organization called the Regional Innovators Group, and it's not a very good name, but we're gonna rename that. We are working to try to create an innovation district on the peninsula. And I took a group of 26 individuals from this group to Boston last year to visit the most innovative square mile on the planet, which is Kendall Square right outside of MIT. And we went there to learn from the leaders of that innovation district what we needed to do to make an innovation district here on the peninsula. And the 2 greatest takeaways were, we are not Boston, right? So we don't have Super Bowl champion, World Series champion, NBA champion. We don't have all that stuff that Boston have. We don't have MIT and we don't have Harvard. But the second part of that is they're not us. They don't have NASA Langley Research Center. They don't have Jefferson Lab, a Department of Energy lab. And they don't have all 5 or 6 branches, if you count Space Force, of the United States military like we do right here on the peninsula. So while they have great assets to form an innovation district, so do we. So we're working on that. And that will continue through the next couple of years. We also have the Military Affairs Council, which meets once every month, and is a forum for the installation commanders from all the military bases on the peninsula to come together and exchange information, but also to exchange information with the business community. So that's been very successful. That's a monthly event. And anybody who would like to come to one of these events, you're very welcome to come sit on one of these, because I think it's critical to maintain that connection with our military members, right? Probably 1 in 5 of every 5 people on the peninsula has some connection to the military. So they're a critical part of our communities. We have to include them in everything we do. We're a regional collaborator, and we serve as the peninsula's representative to any regional initiatives, whether it be infrastructure, highway projects, like I mentioned before, early childhood education projects, anything that has a regional flavor to it. I represent, the Chamber represents the Peninsula business community at those meetings. So we have a small, and the other reason that I say we're a collaborator is my full-time staff is 4 people. And I'm one of them, so only 3 of them really work full-time. I just go out and build relationships. So in order for us to do anything big, we have to have great partners, so we have to be a regional collaborator. And I'll probably get to this later on, but we do 110 to 120 events a year. And that falls on my staff, on 3 people, 3 full-timers and a part-timer. We are a conduit of, this is the one everybody forgets when I ask them the 5 C's, they always forget conduit. But we're a conduit of information that's important to our member businesses. So this information is disseminated through our monthly newsletter, which came out today. Do any of you read that on a regular basis? I'm going to have to make sure I'm sending it to all of you. So we send it to 3,500 email addresses once a month, beginning of the month, end of the month, beginning of the month. And we get about a 30% to 40% opening rate. And I was really depressed about that when I first heard it. And then I talked to some people who were kind of in the social media business, and they said anything over 20% is really good. So 30%, 32% was the opening rate today, which means a lot of people are reading our newsletter. And I think it's a very good newsletter. We also have 2 small business seminar series. So every month we have 2 small business seminars, and all of our members can come to those for free. And they've been very well attended this year. So we're a champion. I used to say we're a cheerleader. And my vice president she's been there for 19 years, she said, Bob, please stop saying cheerleader because everybody imagines you with pom-poms and a skirt. So I said, how about champion? She said, that sounds much better. So we're a champion of our great regional assets. And what do I mean by that? When I first got to the chamber, people would say to me, well, it's kind of a small chamber. I said, we're not the South Side and we're not Richmond. We're just the peninsula. And I've always hated that word just, right? Because we are the mighty peninsula and we have some great economic assets. So I said to them, so does the South Side have the largest industrial employer in the state of Virginia and the only place in the world that builds nuclear aircraft carriers? No, the peninsula does. And does the South Side have all 5 branches at that time of the U.S. military? No, the peninsula does. And do they have a Department of Energy lab and NASA? No, the peninsula does. So we really are the force for economic growth in our region. And the South Side hates to hear me say it, which makes me say it over and over again anytime they're present. But we're also a champion of our members. So we are a great business advocate for all of our members. And yes, this is number 6. So if we do those first 5 C's well, then we become a catalyst for economic growth on the peninsula. Okay, so we developed a strategic plan a couple of years ago, and the board said to me, so I did all the work, and the board asked all the questions, which is kind of how I like it anyway, because I get paid full time and they're just volunteers. But they had a lot of tough questions for me, and one of the first ones was, what is our main lines of effort? And we came down to 3, the things that we focused on most. And leadership development in the business community is a really strong point right now, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. Business advocacy takes many different forms. So it's everything from our business seminar series to our public policy advocacy to helping small businesses learn how to market themselves, those types of things. And then we are a regional collaborator, and I already beat that one to death. Okay, so now I'm just going to walk through several of our programs. How am I doing on time? Am I all right? Okay. So programs, so connect, these are the connection type events. But remember, I said all of our events are connectors. But we do coffee connections, one every month, and a business connection after hours every month. And what we do at those is we go to a member's business. They can host us. One of the benefits of being a member is you can host business connections and coffee connections. So we'll go to, so Peninsula Catholic High School, where my kids went to school, they hosted us a few months ago. And we brought everybody in. The kids were off school that day, and it was a flu season day, so I didn't want to go there, but they said, we're going to have the kids learn from home that day. So we went in and we took 50 to 70 people in there, and they learned about Peninsula Catholic, and they put out some coffee and donuts, which nobody eats anymore, and bagels, and everybody just connected. Everybody's exchanging business cards, talking about what their businesses do, and then Peninsula Catholic, as the host, got to stand up and say, here's what our mission is, and talk a little bit about the school. So any business is eligible to host a coffee connection and a business connection. Pink bag lunches are women's leadership events, and we do one a month also, and that's another member benefit. So female leaders in the business community can come in and say, I want to talk about this topic, and then we'll get them scheduled to do a pink bag lunch. And those are very popular. And then we do ribbon cuttings, because that's what chambers do. Right? We do ribbon probably 3 or 4 every month. Leadership development. So Lead Peninsula, which Angie and I were talking about just a little while ago before we got started. Lead Peninsula is a civic immersion class, and it's been around for 41 years now. It's a civic immersion class. We have 50 participants every year from all walks of Peninsula community, from small government to the military to small businesses to large businesses to banks. They all have representatives. And it's 11 months, 11 program days. Once a month they meet, and they learn about something like healthcare on the peninsula, or workforce development on the peninsula, or transportation on the peninsula. And they call it adult field trips, because that's essentially what it is. We start 7:30 in the morning at the chamber, and we visit several different places and talk to the leaders and learn a little bit about what goes on behind the scenes and to make the peninsula's economy work. Lead Hire is a brand new program. It's in its first year, its inaugural year. We have 27 students this year, and it is a true advanced leadership development program. And we partnered with CNU's Leadership Studies and program and the Luter School of Business. So each program day is about 5 hours long. The first half of it is theoretical leadership taught by a college professor, and the second half is practical discussion of those theories led by a corporate business leader. So, for instance, Ron Lauster, who's the president of WM Jordan, was one of our last speakers. And it's a very popular class. We're just accepting applications for the class of 2026, and I think we have 25 already. So we'll probably go to 30 for that class. Lead Peninsula Alumni Network is just like it sounds. It's any alumni from either one of these courses can come in, and they're actually working on community projects. And we have 100 paying members in that organization right now. And CNU Next is a program that just got started with the Luter School of Business, and it's basically a junior board of directors at CNU's Luter School that's associated with the chamber. And it's a way to bring in mentorship, and it's a way to bring business leaders into classrooms at CNU, and a way for CNU students to do projects for some small businesses. So we're still developing that, but I expect that that's going to be a very successful program. Economic development programs. Many of you have probably attended the Economic Forecast Breakfast that we do in partnership with ODU each spring. The State of the Region, which we just did 2 weeks ago, also with the Dragus School at ODU. The Rising Tide series is a chamber-sponsored series that takes a look at economic development, things that impact economic development on the peninsula. So we look at our strengths and how we can capitalize on our strengths, and we look at our weaknesses and how we can mitigate them or make them strengths. So the next one is coming up on November 20th, I think, and that is going to be on the future of AI in the business community and industry on the peninsula. And then I already talked about the Peninsula Economic Resource Team. Educational programs. Spotlight on the Peninsula is a champion kind of a program. So we started it 7 years ago with Cox, Virginia as our presenting sponsor, and they continue to be the presenting sponsor. And we go to places like the Apprentice School that people have heard about and have never actually been inside and talked to the leaders there. So it's kind of like Lead Peninsula, but it's a monthly event. It's free to our members and to non-members, who I consider to be potential members. And we take them to Jefferson Lab, and we take them to NASA and the Apprentice School and other places like that, the Mariners Museum, so they can get a behind-the-scenes look at those places. Start, Grow, Thrive is one of our small business series, and it is led by Professor Willie Donaldson, who is a longtime professor at the Luter School of Business, and he does each of those classes one a month. And then Strategies, Purpose, Progress is another small business series, and I invite local business owners to come in and talk about their experiences in the business community. Public policy advocacy. So actually I have a government relations consultant that we hired a couple of years ago. Some of you may know him, Chris Davidson. He's a York County resident, but he's actually up at the General Assembly right now because they're in session. So he's up there representing the chamber. Chris and I also put together legislative roundtables on various topics that concern our business members, and they can come in for free and tell us what their obstacles are to success. And then we take notes and we develop our legislative priorities based on what we're hearing from our members, and then work with city councils, board of supervisors, general assembly, and even federal government. So just to try to create better conditions for businesses. We also do candidate forums before elections. Obviously, we don't like to call them debates because none of the candidates like to call them debates anymore. So we have forums that are friendlier. And we have a public policy committee made up of 12 different organizations and made up mostly of people who actually do this for a living, and then they represent the chamber also. So, for instance, Mark Duncan from Riverside Health, he's the government relations consultant for that organization, and he is a representative of the chamber on the public policy committee. Military engagement, we do, like I said before, we do a lot. We have the monthly Military Affairs Council meetings, an annual military recognition breakfast where we recognize a service member from each branch. State of the Military, which is an event we'll do in the spring, which all the installation commanders will talk about what's going on on their installation and in their service. We did a military appreciation golf outing at Langley Air Force Base this past summer, the first time we've done that. And what we did, we sold foursomes, and then they could bring 3, and then we put a military member with each pairing. So 24 foursomes got to know a young sailor, soldier, airman, something like that. They tried to send the admirals and generals, but I said we don't want them. They need to work. We need the young sailors. And then the Military Career Fair, which we do every summer, focused on transitioning service members and their families. And then we have the headliner events, which I'm sure some of you have attended. Newport News and Hampton State of the City. The State of the Chamber is our annual meeting in December, and we do a First Citizen Gala every year. And last year the 2 selectees were Alexis Swan from Town Bank and Rob Shuford from Old Point, and 2 weeks later they merged, and I'd like to think that I had something to do with it. But I'd also like to deny any involvement. So. And then here's just our membership benefits. And I think, one of the things that my VP said to me when I first got there was like, membership is not your job, sir. And I said, membership is my job 24/7, 365, because I always have to figure a way to bring value to a very wide spectrum of businesses, right? We have home-based businesses that are nonprofits all the way up through the largest industrial employer in the state of Virginia. And we have to figure out a way to bring value to each one of them. And I think we're succeeding at that very greatly. So that is all I have to say, unless you have questions.
Council members, questions for Mr. McKenna?
I got an answer for one that's probably going to come up. I have 9 members from Poquoson right now. I have 9 members, and that's been pretty consistent. And I would say that's, in my mind, that's one of my failures in this job, because I haven't been able to figure out a way to get more Poquoson businesses to join. Now, one thing I will say is you have a lot of retail type businesses here, and retail businesses either join Retail Alliance or maybe the York County Chamber, because our programs are very often in the day, and what are retailers doing during the day? they're working, so they can't get away to come to our events, and so they don't get the same benefit that some of our other businesses do. But I'd love to hear from you if you think there are other ways to attract your businesses. Not only because I want to build up our membership base, but Poquoson is a significant portion of our area of responsibility, so I would like to be able to do things with this community.
I have one thing. My voice holds out. Wanted to thank you. About a year and a half ago, I got an email from my son-in-law that said there's 3 young men coming up to your area, and they'd like to know if you could help them out. And they were starting a business in aerospace. Their business is called Tidal Flight, and they were planning on building a airplane that can haul it between 12 and 18 people that's completely electronic. And of course, I know everything about that stuff, but thanks to those emails that you send out, I was able to contact Bob and the chamber, and they got them set up. They're now set up again. They're Tidal Flight in the National Institute of Aerospace. I think you guys helped set them up there, just outside of Poquoson here in Hampton. And they're going great guns. I used to hear from them every quarter, so they must be busy because I haven't heard from them in about 6 months.
They're doing great, and,
Yes.
and I've also had them come speak at different
Oh, have you?
events because they're. You've met them, I guess.
Oh, yes, several times.
They're brilliant young men
Yes.
and very personable too. They're so impressive. It's easy to help guys like that.
Yeah, thank you for helping them, because like I said, they literally came up here with nothing. They had an apartment over in Suffolk, and that was all they had. They knew nothing of up here, where to go, what
And
to
now
do.
they've raised millions. I mean, they're.
Yes,
they're
they have.
moving out, yeah.
People are taking a gamble on it. I think it's a good gamble in their case.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Keith. Any other council members? Bob, I'm certain you recall back in 2018 when I first got to know you, and just an example of the effectiveness of the chamber. Y'all were instrumental in establishing the East Virginia Regional Industrial Facility Authority.
That's what I came and talked about the first time I came.
Yes, sir.
I just- yeah.
Exactly. So if it wasn't for y'all, I don't know that the EV RIF would exist. So thank you very much
No,
for
I
your
think we played a
contributions.
small part, but yeah, I'm proud of that.
Yes, sir, you absolutely did. You're obviously the right person at the right place at the right time. Fortunate to have you in your position in the chamber. Your presentation was excellent. Appreciate you being here. And as a token of our appreciation, we have a 50-year anniversary for the City of Poquoson exchange coin. On the front is our city seal, and on the back is our 50th anniversary logo, developed by administrative specialist, Miss Ashley Chaika. So we have that for you tonight as a token of our appreciation.
Thank you very much, and once again, I'm proud and honored to be here, so thanks so
Yes,
much
sir.
for inviting me.
Pleasure, Bob. Thank you so much. Something to... Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Moving on to item D on our agenda is the audience for visitors. We'll open the floor for public comment for matters related to the city. So, seeing none, we'll close the floor and move on to item E, which is the approval of the minutes of the regular session from October 18th, 2025. Do we have a motion and a second?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the minutes of the City Council meeting October 14th, regular session.
Second.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Christie, call for a vote, please.
Councilwoman Emmett,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard. Aye. Councilman Fye.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bunting.
Aye.
Mayor Hucks.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, a motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you, Christie. Item F is new business. We have 5 items tonight. The first item is an ordinance making additional appropriations for fiscal year 2026 for the general fund and fiscal year 2025 carryover funds for various departments. And we have with us tonight back again our Director of Finance, Ms. Tara Woodruff.
Good evening, Mayor Hucks and council members. We are wrapping up our audit for fiscal year '25, but this time of the year, we bring you the leftover funds that we have remaining from the prior year. So we'll walk through those. We have $311,296 to carry over into FY '26. So we'll go through those. First is the police department has $20,294, which consists of state asset forfeiture, national night out, recruitment and retention program, and community engagement funds. The fire department has $184,972, which consists of their state Four for Life, state fire fund, and Dominion REPP, which stands for Radiological Emergency Preparedness Program. And to give you an idea of what they're planning to use it for is the state Four for Life funds they plan to spend on paramedic school for about 4 new employees. And then they're currently seeking grants for some turnout gear, but if they are not successful, they plan to use the fire funds to purchase some of the fire turnout gear. They have about 30 sets that will be expiring, so they're hoping to either use these funds or find additional funds for that. We also have $64,877 for opioid abatement and $17,414 related to a PCP settlement. And the library had $23,739 in unspent donations. Next, we have some additional new revenue items, which totals $54,609 to appropriate in fiscal year 2026. The first is the library received the final state aid amount when we kind of process the estimate and then they finalize the budget. So we had additional $3,222 that needs to be appropriated, and they will be used to purchase library materials. The city also has received $15,765 in direct distributions from the Virginia Opioid Abatement Authority, which will be used for opioid abatement efforts. And the fire department had 3 remaining amounts from their unspent grants, which totaled $17,084. The first being from FEMA, which was $12,844 to complete the vehicle exhaust removal systems at both stations. $125 remaining from the Department of Homeland Security grant, which was for a drone replacement. And $4,115 from the Virginia Fire Services Board for turnout gear. And community development received $18,538 from the developer to install LED streetlights in Phase 3, Section 1 of Legacy. So you have an ordinance to appropriate these funds, which totals $365,905 in the general fund budget for fiscal year 2026. And I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
They got a drone for $125?
No. That's the amount remaining on the grant. So they purchased the drone and then had a little bit of residual funds, so they're working to spend that remaining amount. That would be great.
Yeah, it would.
Any other questions for Tara? Tara, thank you very much. With that, do we have a motion and a second?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the ordinance making the additional appropriations for fiscal year 2026 for general fund and fiscal year 2025 carryover funds for the various departments noted.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Christie?
Councilman Fye,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bunting,
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett,
Aye.
Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard.
Aye.
Mayor Hux.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6 to 0.
Thank you. Item 2 under new business is an ordinance for fiscal year 26. General Fund, Bureau of Justice Assistance Patrick Leahy, Bulletproof Vest Partnership Grant Funding for the Police Department. We have with us tonight our Police Chief, Stephen Cates.
Good evening. The Patrick Leahy Bulletproof Vest Partnership is a grant program that is administered by the Department of Justice, Office of Justice Programs, Bureau of Justice Assistance. So it's kind of layered as to, it gets pretty deep into divvying out this money. What this grant does is once we're accepted in, there's a certain amount of money that we're allocated as reimbursement funds that covers 50% of the cost of the bullet-resistant vests that we issue our officers. And so this particular grant before you tonight is money from the federal fiscal year 24 funding all kinds of different reasons that delayed me bringing it to you, but we're here, and the award for this federal fiscal year 2024 was $3,629.73. And that covers about 6 bulletproof vests or bullet-resistant vests. With that, we have a replacement program. I'll address this because I was asked before the meeting, so I'll say it for everybody. We have a replacement cycle on our vests. They're guaranteed by the manufacturer. Our uniformed officers that work every day wearing the vest, it's on a 5-year replacement cycle. For folks like me that don't necessarily wear it all day, every day, it's on a 7-year replacement cycle. Because they last a little bit longer, and so during that time, the material wears down like pretty much anything, and so we put it on a replacement cycle, and we've got 6 that we are in the process of issuing out. We just received them replacement, and that's what this money will go to help pay for. So, any questions?
Chief Case, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Have a motion and a second?
Mr. Mayor, I propose an ordinance authorizing the city manager to accept the Patrick Leahy Bulletproof Vest and Partnership Grant and making additional appropriations for fiscal year 2026 for the general fund.
Second.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Chris?
Councilwoman Emmett,
Aye.
Councilman Southall. Aye. Councilman Fye.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bunting.
Aye.
Mayor Hux.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you. Item 3 under new business is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a special project agreement with the Virginia Peninsula Public Service Authority for curbside recycling project. And we have with us tonight our Public Works Operations Manager, Bodina Wright.
Good evening, council, city assistant manager, residents at home. Tonight, we present for your consideration a resolution and authorizing the city manager to enter into a special project agreement with VPSA, Virginia Peninsula Public Service Authority, for the curbside recycling program. VPSA is the regional government organization for 10 cities and counties in Virginia. The initial purpose of VPSA was to provide solid waste management services through the regional approach, allows a contractor to bid on a large scale of households. The city has been in membership since 1989 and entered into a special project agreement for curbside recycling in 1996. VPSA recently terminated its agreement with TFC due to performance deficiencies in September. The city went into an emergency 2-month contract with TFC to continue our recycling services for our homes. VPSA has gone out and found a cooperative agreement with Republic. They have given us an agreement with a blended rate of $8 per home per month. Plus, at the end of that contract, we would be able to purchase our carts for $10 a piece. This contract would go into effect December 1st, 2025, and it would end December 31st, 2029. The city of Williamsburg is also looking at going into this contract at this time and then bringing on the rest of the rest of the cities and counties at a later date. Do you have any questions?
So we don't get the carts up front?
Currently, right now, under the TFC agreement, we do not own the carts. TFC owns the carts. When and if we go in with Republic, they will bring carts in, and at the end of that agreement, we have the option to purchase those carts.
Or near the end of November, they're going to pick up the carts that we currently have.
That is
So
what
moving.
we're understanding, but we are making plans just in case.
Excuse me, Bodina, if a citizen doesn't want to purchase the cart, will they pick them up?
The citizens do not have to purchase the carts. The city, Republic will bring in their carts. It's at the end of it if the city wants to purchase the carts for our residents. So we will own those carts like we own our trash cans now.
And the carts will be the same size?
Yes.
And I'm sorry if you mentioned it, I know in the reading file, it's not going to miss a beat. It's going to be every other Friday. It's going to be the same schedule.
Correct. Yes,
Don't know
so
the
for the
difference.
first, until July 1st, they're going to keep everything the same. At that time, they'll reevaluate and see if that still works the best, if the routes need to be tweaked or anything like that. But no, it will be the same blue and red Fridays, just like we've had.
Same items,
Same items.
something there.
No, you can put, okay, you can put cardboard boxes in as long as they have not had any residue on them. So I normally like take the top of my pizza box off because it normally is clean. I'll put that in recycling and the bottom goes in trash.
And this company will process the recyclables similar to what the previous TFC did?
Yes, they are, they will process it in their own processing plant, and yes.
Dean, I know this was a very high-profile issue, and a great deal of time and effort has gone into it by our staff. So well done.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, and appreciate you being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Have a motion and a second.
Mr. Mayor, I recommend that we adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a special project agreement with the Virginia Peninsula's Public Service Authority for curbside recycling project.
Second.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Christie?
Councilman Fye,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bunting,
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett,
Aye.
Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard,
Aye.
Mayor Hugs.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you. Item 4 under new business is a resolution requesting state legislative action to amend city charter, Article 6, schools. And Assistant City Manager Tanya O'Connell is going to give us a briefing on that. So, Tanya?
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor, member of council. If you recall, at the October 14th meeting, there were 7 items introduced by the city manager to city council as it relates to the city charter and then the article that represents schools. So what I'd like to do now is talk about the 6 items that we feel like everybody was in agreement with a minor revision on one. First of all, we're going to change trustees to what we refer to them as school board members. Remove stale language to the initial establishment of the school board for the city of Poquoson. Here is the revision. We're going to set the term limit to 2 consecutive full terms. This clarifies that the time served to be complete as a partial unexpired term does not count towards the full 2 terms. So this was a revision based on the discussion on the October 14th meeting. We're going to change the term length from 3 years to 4. Prohibit moving appointees between district and at-large positions. And again, formalize the informal practice that persons appointed to school board may not also serve on another school board, committee, or commission. So Mayor, tonight, before we move on to the final, just want to make sure that's still the concurrence of City Council as it relates to these 6.
Council members, any questions or comments on this? Now, I have expressed my concern with item number 3. I just want to be certain that we are comfortable that making a statement for 2 consecutive full terms makes it clear that when a school board member rotates off the school board and is off for a certain amount of time, they are eligible for reappointment. So is everybody comfortable that just the addition of the word consecutive makes that clear without the need to make a more definitive statement? Okay, so are we comfortable with just the word consecutive?
I am.
I'm struggling a little bit with it. I agree that the 2 consecutive full terms is great. I'm cool with that, but I do think that without saying that someone can come back after a gap in service, that they're eligible to reapply, right? That if it's not stated in there, it will look like we're finding a loophole to allow someone to serve by not stating that that is something that we allow. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
Okay.
that's my concern as well.
And I don't know what language we need to put in there saying that that's the intent of saying 2 consecutive terms, inviting the person, should they desire to reapply after they have been rotated off for a while. And do we need to say what that while is? Could it be, is it a full term in service or half a term if someone comes in and then leaves? Like after 2 years, they could then reapply? Debbie, do you have thoughts on that?
Well, I
What would
think,
work?
we had some discussion on this earlier. I had some with, I had the same question, and I think city manager, assistant city manager, I had some discussion with them, asked them to clarify. And I think, how I understand consecutive, if a school board member went off the board June 30th,
After 2 terms.
after 2 terms, and then we have an opening on July 1, so they go off June 30th, 2026. Have an opening July 1, 2026. That would be a consecutive term, so we could not reappoint them, because that would be a consecutive term. Say, for whatever reason, we had an opening December 2026. Well, it's no longer a consecutive term, because that term actually started and they did not serve from January 1 to whatever date in December. That would not be considered consecutive. Or if we come around to July 1, 2027, they were off July 1, 2026 through June 30, 2027, then they would be eligible to be reappointed July 1, 2027.
And what that would accomplish is that because we have staggered appointments, and it's not that you're waiting for a full round of the spot you had, right?
Right.
Because, you and I are both Western Precinct, but we are elected in different years.
Right.
However, if it's a term and it's consecutive terms, and we're looking at terms and not people, right? And this person was in this spot and this spot, then and that ends, say, June 30th to July 1. And I'm going with your December scenario of the same year. That's a consecutive term that the person is coming into. And that's like a half-term filling it in. I would be comfortable with the July spot that is a natural fill, right? The natural term ending for another person.
But coming on in December is not a full term. Am I correct in
Hold on.
saying that?
Clarify, the term served to complete a partial unexpired term does not count to the 2 full-term limit. So that would allow them to apply in that window.
That's the way I
Okay, that works.
understand it.
That is correct. And remember, you all have your SOP that you have for the school boards. So you could clarify your intent as it relates to bring someone that had filled the 2 consecutive full terms. If you had a partial that would be available, you could identify that in your SOP as well.
My concern is based in the perception of doing the spirit of the law, right? And that we don't want anyone to imagine that we are not fulfilling the spirit of the law by saying, oh, look, 2 months, okay, come on back, Dave, or whatever, right? But I do think, Debbie, with your clarification and knowing that we'll have a rubric that we can look at in the SOP, that'll be something we can stand with. How does that sound from your lawyer point of view?
I would do it totally different, but, it's your decision.
I asked.
I would make it perfectly clear. I would put a line in that says, you may not serve again until after a 1-year absence from the school board. That way you haven't got to worry about a consecutive term or anything else. And if we're so bad off that we can't find somebody to serve for a partial term, maybe they need to change the whole thing. That would be my preference, to make it perfectly clear. You had to be off the board for a 1-year term before you could be reappointed for a subsequent term.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, especially along the lines that 7 people here that are going to make the decision, and that would be just one candidate, unless that one person was the only candidate, then you can have that discussion back in that room as to what you're going to do.
And
Otherwise, we're going to get multiple people, and it's easy to make a decision, well, this person has served 8 years, we got some fresh blood here, why?
Well, I particularly like having the year spelled out to be a definite time period. I think that's a good idea. And just because somebody comes back and reapplies does not mean they will be selected. It depends on who the candidates are, okay?
Right.
We make a habit of picking the very best candidate we can for all the positions, okay? But allowing them to do that, okay, in case they were a really good person on the school board and they served well and contributed a lot to the school board, if a position came up following year, they could reapply and they may be reappointed because, I don't know if you've seen it or not. I think you all have, because we had some information where there were some places that had changed from an appointed school board to an elected school board, and the elections came up and nobody volunteered for the position. And so now, what do you do when you have an elected school board, okay, and there are no candidates? Okay? How do you fill the school board? Okay? And so we always make a careful selection of the very best candidate, because we look at the candidate's qualifications and make certain they're the right person. So if they had a good candidate a year ago, okay, then maybe they get selected, maybe they don't.
Right.
Depends on who their competitions are.
So can we add the language and still have it be considered tonight to say a gap of a year? Is a year what you all are thinking? It sounds like.
So what we will do is set the term limit to 2 consecutive full term, again clarifying that the time served to complete partial unexpired term does not count towards the 2 full. And then, of course, after 1 year of serving, their 2 consecutive full terms, they're eligible for a new appointment.
To apply.
Apply, yes.
I think that makes it clear.
Mr. Moore, thank you very much. Appreciate your input.
I'm just dumb. I like for it to be clear. I understand what you're saying.
And that's why I felt obligated to raise the issue so we could have this discussion. So I appreciate everybody's input on that. Any other questions or comments on item 3 in particular?
So just to clarify, so the school board member that has some event in their life that, say, they have to resign in December, with the 1 year, would the December resignation date start the clock for that 1 year break?
I believe they hadn't fulfilled the obligation of the 2
They haven't
consecutive full
fulfilled
terms.
the
That's
2-year
right.
term
Okay,
obligation, yeah.
and then they would be eligible to apply again for an opening whenever. Okay, thank you.
Are any other questions or comments on any of those 6?
Well, number 5, prohibit moving appointees between district and at-large positions. I think I want to just wait and see what further discussion is on others, other points.
Yes.
Before we say, yeah, we're good with that.
Okay, because we might not need that one.
Right.
Might not need that one. So can we come back to that, to reaching a consensus on these 6 until after we talk about the 7th one? Everybody okay with that?
Good.
Okay, Tanya?
All righty. Now, at the last meeting, we did have a robust discussion as it relates to changing board compensation from 2 district representatives per precinct to 1 at large, and then 1 district representative per precinct and 4 at large. So there was a discussion about that. And then, of course, I believe we heard a second proposal, which we'll call B, where we basically strike the district representative per precinct and 1 at large to all 7 at-large precincts. So tonight, Mayor, I'm looking for city council guidance on whether or not we strike district representatives and have all 7 at-large, or we have 1 district representative with 4 at-large.
My concern with that, if I may, David?
Please.
With alternative B, although I see the merit there because in our community, I don't think it's going to be an issue of stacking. We have a practice of interviewing people who are qualified. When we had the precincts, we still had 15 people to interview that were highly qualified people for some of these. So I'm a little concerned about that load, other than the fact that we'll probably be, the rotation would be that we'd be filling 2 spots at one time.
Yes.
And that kind of says, hey, we actually get to choose the 2 best candidates, which is such a benefit. Because so many times you know, you can narrow it down, but that last decision is difficult.
Everybody.
That's what our SOP says, yes.
Before we had gone, even with the, in front of me, but we had said before that we kind of let people for the precinct whittle it down to whatever it was. And I remember the last one, Debbie said she wanted to interview all 5, so we did. But before that, we had actually whittled from however many down to 3 interviews. I don't think that's part of, it says we will interview for the positions, the whole council will interview, but I don't think it says we'll interview necessarily everybody that puts an application in. Again, I don't have it with me.
Yeah, I
Every
mean,
qualified person.
yeah, I mean, I believe it
Well-
does say we'll interview all.
Qualified based on the first-
Because I did look at that earlier today in preparation for this meeting. And Jeannie, if I could elaborate just a little bit on that. In June of 2026, we will have 2 terms expire. So we could interview all candidates for those 2 positions. So we don't have to do separate interviews for each position. And in June of 2027, we have 3 terms expire. So we could interview all the applicants for the 3 positions. And then in June of 2028, we'll have the 2 that we haven't already addressed. So that was a concern of mine, as well as having to interview all the candidates for each individual seat on the school board, but that's not the case the way the terms expire. So I think that will lighten our load as well.
What you're saying, David, is because I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, our standard operating procedure says if they have been interviewed in the last year,
Yes.
we can still consider them. They don't necessarily need a second interview in the same year.
That is correct.
So they can kind of carry over that application and that consideration.
Yes. That works to our advantage as well.
And I think with such, for me, with such an important position, I don't mind taking the time to interview every applicant who is qualified. I think it is that important that it may take some time, but I think it's worth it.
I do too. I wholeheartedly agree.
I'm with Angie on that. That's the most important board we have, okay? School board's the most important board we have. So interviewing the people, okay, to make certain that they haven't changed opinions, they don't have any grudges to iron out, or any personal vendettas, okay? We want to make certain we always get the very best candidate for the.
Sir.
Tanya, may I ask a question about option one? I know we spoke about it briefly last meeting, the logistics of the transition. For option B, I think it's pretty clear because just everyone it would go to the at-large. But for option one, where some of them will stay precinct, some of them will stay at-large, what's the transition logistics like?
Well, that's I did not bring that information. I believe, look here, we would have our first Eastern that comes aboard on 30/2027 would be our first at-large movement. The next would be our Western at the same time. Prior to that, in 2026, we'll have our first Central to move. So we'll take the first spots that come up and move them to at-large, leaving the Eastern, Central, and Westerns for 2028 alone.
Well, I think that going to 7 at-large seats gives us the ability to select the best applicant for the school board. Sometimes it just comes down to, which side of the street you live on, where our precincts are divided. And I remember more than one time in the last year or so where, we might have an opening in one precinct and there's applicants in another precinct that would be good applicants, and we can't even consider them. And because of the time restraint of when the next appointee would come up available for the school board, you might, and now with 2 of the 4-year, meaning an 8-year term, it might be years. And you might lose the opportunity to have someone who, could really be a great addition to the board. And because of the size of our community, they all go to the same school, and in my, the practice that I see that our citizens, when they reach out to a council member or they reach out to a school board member, they're reaching out to the member they know. They're reaching out to the member they're familiar with or they have the most in agreement with. So I think having the 7 at-large seats would be of value for us to appoint the best that we can from the city to these positions.
That would give us the maximum flexibility.
Maximum flexibility.
Well, I share the opinion that we give you the maximum flexibility, and you could select the very best candidate. I worry about some citizens in a particular precinct saying that, we have nobody representing us, because we don't have any representatives from this precinct, okay? Not that that's the more important issue. The more important issue is to have the right people doing it, but I could see some citizens' concerns.
But it would eliminate the problem that was brought up earlier about, what if no one from your area applies? Do we let the seat go empty when we have a perfectly qualified person?
Well, I don't disagree with that, but like I say, that gives you the most flexibility to get the best qualified person, okay? I worry about the perception of my statement, okay?
Again, the perception would be from who we select,
Well,
not from the application.
everyone here is probably like me. I get phone calls from people from the Western Precinct, okay, the Eastern Precinct, and the Central Precinct, okay, because they know. And it's exactly what one of you two said, okay? They call the people they know. And so they're comfortable. If there's nobody representing the precinct that they don't know, okay, and that they know, rather, okay, then that might create some concern. Just food for thought, okay? I agree qualifications are the most important thing.
having been fortunate enough to been blessed with the opportunity to serve on the school board and serve on council, the way we do things down here is all 7 members of council and all 7 members of the school board serve everybody in the community. You know, we all serve everybody. So I don't think precinct specific is an obstacle in any way to those we serve and represent. I mean, we're all here for everybody.
Well, I think it was better when we were elected by the entire city.
Yes, sir.
Rather than the precinct.
As do I.
And so this is no different than that, right?
Yes, sir. Exactly. Any other questions or comments from council members on this topic?
I'll just go back, and I mentioned it last time too, but I think having that standard operating procedure where we are all involved in the decision.
Yes.
I think really helps mitigate concern of not getting different cross-sections of our populace. I think that having all of us representatives from all the precincts at the table will help mitigate that too.
Another good point. Thank you.
Here, if alternative proposal B is the one we agree to use, then that gets rid of option 5 or line item 5
Yes.
on the previous slide. So we still have 6 things. Okay.
That is correct.
It sounds like we have a consensus for alternate proposal B to go to 7 at large. Am I hearing that correctly? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So Mayor and council members, the only thing I need is just approval of the resolution authorizing the mayor to issue a memo or letter to our legislators so we can get working on the charter change.
Okay. Do we have a motion and a second?
Okay, so the amendments are, we're doing away with 5, we're going to alternate proposal B.
It's going to be a total of 6. So we are going to eliminate number 5, prohibit moving appointees between districts and at-large, and of course for number 3, adding the language as it relates to 1 year off the term. And then going to alternative B, where we are no longer requiring district representatives, but they will all be at-large seats.
Concerned what's going on with regard to interest in school boards across the state, as well as the brouhaha of Virginia Beach and getting elected by precinct, or whatever they call them down there. Do we think this might be a pushback? Do we need to explain the fact that we have but one school, one primary, one elementary, one middle, one high school?
The legislature, you mean?
Right. And they're just going to get it, and they're going, Poquoson wants to do this, after they just decided that they shouldn't do that for like Virginia Beach and whoever else besides us voted for everybody at large.
Well, again, that would be a charter change that the city council would be requesting of that.
Right.
Separate from that, I think that's a referendum that the voters would have to vote. And all requirements are that the city charter should be changed through city council.
So the person that, I'm thinking, the person that brings this before state body would be able to explain.
I believe that is correct, because we're just changing, again, the district precincts to now at-large. So the still mechanism or the way that the school board members are appointed are still by city council.
Thank you, Keith. Right, do
And we'll still have number 7, which now becomes 6, about no one being able to serve on another board at the same time.
Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve a resolution requesting state legislative action to amend the city charter, Article 6, school.
Second.
Thank you. Christie?
Councilwoman Emmett,
Aye.
Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Councilman Thigh,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bunting,
Aye.
Mayor Hucks.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you, Christie, and council members, and staff. My compliments on a great discussion. Thank you so much. Item 5 under new business, this is an easy one. This is a resolution canceling the second meetings of November and December from 2025. Tanya, did you want to elaborate on that?
Well, this is that time of the year where we typically cancel our November and December 2nd meeting due to the holidays. So in front of you is a resolution putting forth the cancellation of those 2 meetings.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Second?
Motion and a second, please.
Got to have the motion.
I move that we adopt a resolution
I
canceling
thought it was voted.
the second meetings of November and December.
Second. I thought the first reading was.
Christie?
Councilwoman Hubbard,
Aye.
Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bunting,
Aye.
Councilman Thigh, Mayor Hucks.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by 0.
Thank you, Christie. Item G on their agenda is comments from the Assistant City. Tanya?
Well, I just have one, reminding our citizens that Friday night is the observation of Halloween. It's dusk to 8 p.m., so please be vigilant and watch when you're driving in the communities, because we'll have a little ghost and goblins running around on the streets. And again, their safety is our priority, so please keep an eye out there and drive even slower than you typically would.
Thank you, Tanya. And we'll move on to item H, council directives. Debbie?
Just want to thank everyone for the discussion, where we can have the open discussion and be respectful of each other's opinion to come to the best solution that we think it is for our citizens. That's what it's all about, and it's just a pleasure serving with everyone.
Thank you. I feel the same way. Angie?
The only thing I have, and Jeannie mentioned this last meeting, and I just wanted to mention it again, that in this whole recycling situation, I just really want to commend city staff, Bodina, Public Works. They were really able to navigate that whole recycling situation and pivot, come up with the emergency contracts, come up with solutions so that the citizens were able to get the recycling out. It didn't miss a beat. And I just really wanted to say how much I appreciate how everyone handled that recycling situation.
And did it in very short order, too.
Mm-hmm, they sure did.
Thank you, Angie. Mr. Southall?
I'd like to thank Bob McKenna for coming and making that nice presentation, and very informative, and thank him for coming here to do that. And again, I want to thank everyone who came out tonight, council, not too many except for staff tonight, but thank the ones at home who are watching us on TV.
Thank you, Mr. Southall. Jeannie?
No specific thing other than, echoing the sentiments of everyone here, but don't forget that Saturday night's daylight standard time, put those clocks back and don't be late to church.
Thank you, Jeannie. Keith?
Yes, this is, not that everything isn't, but this is rather important. Our next food pantry distribution is on Thursday, the 13th of November, and the reason I say it's important is because of the government shutdown. I don't know if everybody read the article in the newspaper for those camera. It is having an effect on the SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or food stamps. I was in a conversation with Denise Hall from York Poquoson Public Services or Social Services, who works out of Public Works, and it's affecting some 400 people. I'm not sure if it's people or families in the city of Poquoson. So the talk about what can we do for it, the governor has declared a state of emergency with regard to it. I'm going to be with our new partner agency at MES Baptist Church, Pat Harris and her crew, on Thursday morning with Denise and I think others, York Poquoson Social Services, and MES to discuss what we're going to do. But it looks like we aren't going to get, or they aren't going to get the food that we normally get. So we're going to try and work on getting more food during the pantry to distribute to the families, plus the families that normally get a SNAP benefit to help them through the time frame. Everything can change between now and then, of course, but it's best to have a plan, and we're going to do that come Thursday morning at 10 o'clock, and we'll find out. But what you will probably see, if anybody's listening out there, additional food drive requests for food to be brought to MES Baptist Church in the next couple of weeks in order to be able to make that food distribution bigger than normal, besides the fact that it's bigger than normal anyway because of Thanksgiving. So look for that, social media information as to what we're requesting people to bring, where to be dropped off at and like that. And you may see a box out here in City Hall. You may see them at the school, stuff like that, depending on what we need to get it done. So that's all I have, sir.
Keith, thank you for your leadership, and thanks also to our friends at MES Baptist Church. Make a big difference, no doubt. I'd like to thank our IT support. As always, Ms. Alicia Barefoot and Ms. Jen Canella. Could not have the meetings without IT support, so thank you, ladies. And as y'all know, we had our 43rd annual Seafood Festival a weekend before last, and I think it was very well attended and well done as always, and it impresses me at the volume of time and effort devoted to that, part of our paid staff and a multitude of volunteers. So it certainly reflects very well on the city being our signature event. So thank you very much to everybody that contributed to that. And similarly, this past weekend, the Poquoson Education Foundation had their Run for the Bulls, and there were quite a few volunteers out there helping with that as well. And our police department was out there making certain that the environment was safe for that event to be held. So thank you very much to all involved. And next item on our agenda is item I. It's a closed session pursuant to section 2.2-3711A8 of the Code of Virginia from 1950, is amended to consult with the city attorney on a specific legal matter. Do we have a motion and a second to go into closed session?
So move.
Second.
Christie?
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bunting?
Aye.
Councilman Fye?
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett?
Aye.
Mayor Hucks?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, by a vote of 6 to 0.
Thank you. We're now in closed session. Thank you.
Sitting by the television.
All right, item J on our agenda is reconvenement and certification closed session. Do we have a motion and a second?
Mayor, I move the council certify, best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirement by Virginia law were discussed in the closed session.
Second.
Mr. Moore, is that adequate without reading the whole?
Read the whole thing. All
Okay,
you're doing is certifying that you didn't discuss anything in closed session that you didn't go to closed session to discuss.
be sure. Thank
We
you.
don't have to reopen first?
Take care of reconvening
Reconvening
and
and
certification
certifying.
in the same.
Do we have a motion and a second? Okay, Christie?
Vice Mayor Bunting,
Aye.
Councilman Fye,
Aye.
Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard,
Aye.
Aye.
Mayor Hux.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6.
Okay, thank you, Christie. And item K, adjournment. Do we have a motion and a second?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Thank you, Christie.
Councilwoman Emmett,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard,
Aye.
Councilman Fye,
Aye.
Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bunting,
Aye.
Mayor Hux.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you, we're adjourned.